One city. One world. One web. Many futures. One program, TeXT-TUBE TV.
G'day and welcome to TeXT-TUBE TV, the new program about the future, where it is going and what directions it will take. We are your hosts, Will and Nat.
On the agenda tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have three very different segments, all of which will tell you something different about the future.
That's right. Our first segment of this evening is called The Futurist Next Door. In this segment, we will have a look at a special up-and-coming futures concept with the help of a very, very special guest.
The team, along with the esteemed Aubrey de Grey, will be looking at the contentious issue of ageing, how people are living longer and what this means for our society.
In our second segment, known as Images of the Future, we'll be looking at biodiesel and a little-known Pongamia plant which is making big headlines as the new fuel source for the future.
Our third and final segment this evening will be the iFuturist segment. This part of our show allows you, the viewers at home, to have a say on our theme of the week. One lucky winner will be invited to join our panel discussion at the end of the night.
I'm glad you mentioned the theme of the week, Nat. We almost forgot to tell everybody all about it.
Of course, Will. Each week we will have a theme which ties all of our different segments together. Considering TeXT-TUBE TV is a Brisbane-based company, we decided to go local for our inaugural theme.
We call it 20 after G20. What will our city look like 20 years after this year's G20 summit?
And now you know all about our theme and TeXT-TUBE TV, let's get on with the show. Introducing the futurist next door.
We all know ageing is an inevitable part of our lives. Natural, progressive, and, more often than not, an unpleasant experience. Our bodies deteriorating, skin wrinkling, loss of vitality, independence, and mental clarity. The sense of becoming a burden. But what if we could change this? What if the future holds radical new understandings of the idea of ageing? Is it time to rethink old ideas?
Here in Brisbane, leaders from 20 major global economies will be converging for the G20 summit. There's no doubt that this city is rapidly emerging as a forward-thinking hub of global ideas. But what will the future look like for an ageing population 20 years after the G20? What will your future of ageing look like?
Brad Partridge is a researcher at the Centre for Clinical Research at Brisbane's own leading university, the University of Queensland.
The discussion about life extension really does straddle this line between, science and science fiction, and certainly fantasy as well. Some of these goals just seem completely, out of the realm of possibility. For most people, if you say, would you like to live to 150, they'll tell you, well, if it's going to be good quality of life, then, probably would. And that's the thing. People have this idea that if we extend life, we're just going to be extending the last part of life where we're old and frail and we can't do the things that we used to be able to do.
So, where will we be in 20 years after the G20? Brad believes life extension could be something you and I could potentially face soon enough.
At the moment, a lot of these technologies are still very much in their infancy. But there are a lot of scientists, particularly in the US, I've got to say, who are very much serious about this. And they're hoping that a genuine anti-aging pill is something that's just around the corner. Aubrey de Grey has suggested that the first person to live to 1,000 might already be alive.
Leading researcher and editor-in-chief at the SENS Research Foundation, Dr. Aubrey de Grey targets the ageing process at the very core by focusing on rejuvenation research, future thinking at a molecular level.
I normally like to describe aging as an Uber disease. The mistake that people make is not so much that they don't classify aging as a disease. The problem is that they do classify the diseases of old age as diseases, when in fact it would be much more biologically accurate and indeed much more medically practical to classify anything that predominantly affects people who were born a long time ago as part of aging. We are not yet able to eliminate all of the damage that the body does to itself as a side effect of its normal operation, but we are able to eliminate enough of it to buy enough time to figure out how to eliminate some more, to buy more time. I would say that we've got a good chance of getting there within the next 20 or 25 years.
While Aubrey has said he does want to live longer himself, this isn't his driving motivation for the research.
What gets me out of bed in the morning is the sheer humanitarian magnitude of the problem. The fact that out of the roughly 150,000 people that die each day worldwide, 2/3 of them die of aging. In the industrialized world, it's something around 90% of all deaths. So this is unequivocally the world's biggest problem, and I am unequivocally a very privileged guy to be able to spearhead the mission to solve it.
While experts are already striving to make this a reality, what you may not know is that ordinary people like you and I, right here in Brisbane, are already exploring their own methods to make this a reality.
Transhumanism can be defined as the philosophy that believes we can and should develop to higher levels of living, both physically and mentally, using rational methods. Nick Umashev, a highly active Brisbane transhumanist, is going to new levels to enhance and expand his own life.
Next week will be my last week of food. I'm actually quitting food next week entirely. I'm moving towards a liquid diet that contains 3,000 calories. I hate food. I think it's unproductive and impractical. In fact, very much in line with transhumanism, you look at the amount of time you waste cooking, cleaning, preparing food. Imagine saving that 2 hours a day you spent eating and being able to put it towards actual productivity. And I do see this as the future of people, the future diet.
Could you see yourself giving up food? I certainly couldn't. But there's a whole world of ideas out there, and you never know what the next 20 years of research might uncover.
Wow, Will, to be honest, I hadn't heard of most of those terms before, let alone how they can affect us or even how close they are to us here in Brisbane.
You're right, Nat. I had not either. But it seemed like a very interesting and controversial topic. Let us know what you think. Would you like to live to be 100? 150? Hit us up on Facebook or on Twitter via the hashtag TeXT-TUBE.
Next up is our Images of the Future segment. This part of the show will explore a new kind of biodiesel which can be fueled entirely by pongamia seeds.
The team have been working very hard to put together a future for you to enjoy. And this is one where pongamia can not only fuel your car, but also have some surprising benefits in other aspects of your life.
But whether or not this idea can become a reality, well, we'll leave that up to you.
Oh, no, we had a high Mitch. Oh, don't forget the byproduct of pongamia diesel. Pongamia?
What's that?
What are you doing, Les?
Oh, I'm just fueling up with diesel, Mitch, but I'm nearly out actually.
Oh, have you heard about that new pongamia diesel?
Pongamia diesel? Pongamia diesel? Pongamia diesel? What's that?
Hey, stop scratching.
But my skin's so broken and sore.
I think you can use the pongamia leaf extract.
But what is that?
It's the oil from the pongamia leaf, and I think it can use for the medical purpose.
Oh, do you have any here?
I think we can go out to get some.
Oh, from a tree outside?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. It's okay.
Oh,
Just try.
thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really soothing. Can I get this in shops?
Just everywhere is pongamia.
Oh, so cool. I might go get myself some now. Thanks so much.
It's a super tree like no other. Pongamia can withstand serious drought conditions, with its deep roots reaching up to 10 metres underground. It's expected that these trees will power buildings and homes in the very near future, 20 years into the future to be exact. And Paul Scott from the University of Queensland is encouraging future-thinking farmers to jump on board with pongamia.
Where I do see where it can have greater impact is in a small rural or regional setting where either individual farmers or cooperatives of farmers might grow plantations of pongamia and produce enough oil and diesel and fuel for their own needs.
There's more to this humble tree than its deep roots and positive environmental impacts. The byproduct of Pongamia can be used to sustain drought-stricken stock.
The seed meal, which is left over once you extract the oil from the seed, that's got quite a good protein level, and you can pop it into commercial cattle feed. So a farmer could be using Pongamia, getting biodiesel out of it, and then also having a bit left over to feed their sheep or to feed their cows with.
And I'm here at the UQ Gatton plantation, where over 250 Pongamia trees are planted. And in just 20 years' time, you can expect a small seed like this one to be fueling your car. It's not just the little pod that can be used. The leaves can be ground down into an extract that can be used on wounds, rashes and other skin abrasions.
Leaf extracts, if you wanted to put the effort into grinding them down and everything, that oil you can get from the leaf has had some traditional uses in India for diabetes and a lot of rashes and a lot of skin conditions, which potentially could be useful.
From all reports, Pongamia is a sustainable plant with many benefits. It's likely that 20 years after Brisbane's G20, life will be very different to how we see it now.
Some very good arguments for Pongamia there, Nat.
Absolutely, Will. Can you imagine in 20 years' time, we could all be filling up our cars at tree stations instead of petrol stations?
Tree stations, a very interesting concept. Let us know what you think. Go on our Facebook or hashtag on Twitter.
And finally, the last part of our show, the iFuturist segment. As mentioned earlier, this segment allows you, the viewers at home, to have your say on what you think Brisbane will look like 20 years after G20.
We've picked some of the best entries from you, and we selected one winner to be evaluated by our futures experts.
Let's have a look at what Brisbane will look like 20 years after G20.
We all agree that the 2014 G20 summit was a failure. Here at the Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre, the world played witness to a complete public lockout concerning public affairs and policy.
Media lockouts, fragmentation, censorship, these were the words that summed up the 2014 G20 summit in Brisbane. The total media lockout, exercised by the Department of Liberty, Information and Equality, known as LIE, created a climate of public distrust that undermined the already fragile faith in world authorities. This had been building from a lack of action on global issues of 2014, such as ISIL, the Ebola outbreak and climate change. The superficial reporting from strictly vetted sources was widely disbelieved by the public, and coupled with the shutdown of major city centres in the name of security, led to massive public resentment and demonstrations against the summit. This failure was a disappointment to both the city and the world at large.
Our cities! Our cities! Get back and run, you fucking pig! You get in your fucking line!
Now, the event is returning to Brisbane in 2034. The stage is set for the city to show that it can learn from the past and grant unprecedented journalistic access while still maintaining security. To this end, the government and Freedom Industries, commonly known as FI, have worked together to develop a cutting-edge app that makes use of social media and geotagging platforms to provide personalised and trustworthy reporting.
The app, Blipper, allows users to follow journalists throughout the entire summit. Journalists report in real time during their conferences, using the app's multiple functions. Blipper allows journalists to publish and share 140-character bleeps. Geotagging also allows users to locate specific conferences down to the room. The journalists will be selected based on 2 criteria. Firstly, they must have a high profile and be renowned for their trustworthiness. Secondly, the journalist will be selected based on their expertise in their professional field of work, such as the environment, geopolitics, or health. Because there are a limited number of journalists, which have been scrutinized by both security and the public, the probability of the selected journalists being a risk to the summit's safety is almost zero, and they will have established trust with the public. The geotagging platform, combined with personalities that people know, lets these journalists create an interactive guided tour of the event. This allows people to follow their chosen journalists, to lead them through the summit like curators of a digital museum. People will use this system because it allows them to create their own personalized feed of news and information from sources they trust, reporting on topics that they care about. Blipper is verified by Lie as the official media platform and will be the only up-to-the-minute source of information from the summit. Blipper's intuitive and easy-to-use design is capable of supporting a variety of media. Journalists can make use of bleeps to give users access to a constant stream of news, and can also produce multimedia productions for in-depth exploration of the issues. Blipper uses a combination of rich multimedia and the ability to link to other long-form news pieces to investigate G20 topics. Blipper is connected to ubiquitous social media to allow users to share stories that interest them across any platform.
The 2014 G20 media lockout was a direct result of restrictive security measures which hindered open and honest reporting. We now have the tools to show that we can learn from the past. Freedom Industries believes truth and information belongs to the people. Blipper can provide safe, current, and above all, trustworthy news when and where people want it.
By adapting this revolutionary technology in preparation of the 2034 G20 Summit, media consumers and commentators are given the opportunity to participate in a secure international event. By developing this platform of geotagging aligned with social commentary, users are enabled to critique bias or claim that the event was a repeat of the 2014's media lockout.
And we're on the couch here with our team. Here we have with us this evening Dr. David Wright, our resident futurist, and our iFuturist of the week, Nisha.
So Nisha, we'll start with you. Nisha and her group came up with an idea regarding the future of journalism. It's an app called Blipper. Nisha, can you tell us a little bit about Blipper?
Yeah, so my group and I, we came up with this idea for an app. It's called Blipper. It sends out 140-word bleeps to audiences, and basically they follow their favourite journalists, and that's how journalists and audiences interact with each other through this app.
Okay, Nisha, I'm seeing a lot of similarities to some current apps here. What makes your app so different? You spoke, it's only journalists, is it, on the app?
It's journalists and audiences, so any consumers can join up to the app, and this is how journalists, they send out their messages rather than through any corporations. They just go out individually through this app.
What do you think about all this? Do you think that Blipper is an app for 20 years in the future? Or do you think it's something that's possibly even happening already?
Yeah, look, no, I saw the clip and it's a great little film you've made there, so congratulations on that. Look, this often happens with future projects, is that people, there's always a balance of having something which is realistic and possible and feasible.
Yes.
But then thinking a little bit outside the box and projecting yourself like really 5, 10, 20, or 100 years into the future. And look, I loved it, so I'll be clear on that. But look, at the same time, I think you could have pushed it a little bit more.
We were thinking towards the future, but we were also being very realistic with our views. We wanted this to be a future of journalism that we could see was plausible, and not something that was, I guess, so futuristic that it wasn't imaginable for us.
When you came to developing Blipper, what other kind of references did you have? Did you have like Twitter and Facebook, or?
Yeah, we took from all the social media out there, and we think that a lot of the apps and the social media today is excellent, but they also have parts of them that could be improved, especially for journalism, because journalists these days do use Twitter, do use Facebook, and we thought, well, imagine if they just use one app, and there was just one app for them to go to, for audiences to go to, and that was where they distributed their news.
So, Nisha, in terms of consumption versus people who are actually putting the news out there, how are we going to be able to differentiate between who's a journalist and who is just a mere consumer on this app?
The journalists are actually the ones that send the message, and the audiences, they can then share that through this app onto different platforms. They can interact with it by commenting, but it's actually journalists who are sending the message through it. Audience can't also send, put their articles out there or anything like that. It's not like Facebook, but they can comment and they can share.
Some people think that in the future that all people will be journalists to some extent, and that's kind of happening already now.
Well, with our idea, we believe, today there are a lot of citizen journalists, and this is where it's getting really blurred and confused, and people are saying, oh, journalism won't exist in 20 years because there's citizen journalists and there's people with their phones, and there's people blogging. But we think this is giving back to journalists. This is giving them their power back, rather than this line always being blurred. Because if it's always blurred, then it doesn't exist anymore. People become lost in all the information out there. So this is like, you want to read professional journalism, you want to read an article, well, this is where you go to.
And that's all from us here tonight. On behalf of all of the TeXT-TUBE TV team, thanks for watching and have a great night.
And we'll see you in the future.
Good night.